The Epstein File. Inside America's bipartisan wall of silence. Why victims still fight for justice while Washington still runs from the truth. Introduction. America's most radioactive secret. There are scandals. There are cover-ups. And past all of them, past Watergate, past Iran-Contra, past the Pentagon Papers, there is the Epstein case. The most persistent, most dangerous, most bipartisan, and most morally rotten story in modern American history. A billionaire sex trafficker suicided in federal custody under 24/7 surveillance. A global network of wealthy men and powerful elites passed through his mansions, his island, his planes. A list of victims that spans 3 decades. A list of high-profile individuals that spans politics, intelligence, finance, academia, and royalty. And yet, 20 years after the first criminal investigation, 5 years after his death, and 2 years after thousands of pages of testimony were unsealed, no full public reckoning has happened. Why? Because every corner of America's establishment, Republican, Democrat, corporate intelligence, media, has something to lose if the entire truth comes out. The Epstein File is not just about trafficking. It is about power, blackmail, impunity, and the bipartisan architecture of silence. The victims demand justice, but Washington prefers amnesia. This is the anatomy of that silence. Part 1. The Network. How Epstein built a global power machine. Jeffrey Epstein was not simply a wealthy predator. He was an ode, a hub in a carefully curated ecosystem of billionaires, politicians, princes, scientists, bankers, lawyers, intelligence assets, academics, and media figures. 1. The origins of an operator. Epstein rose from Brooklyn math teacher to Wall Street, mystery financier with stunning speed. By the 1980s, he was moving in elite circles without a clear explanation of his wealth. Former business partners, including early associates at Bear Stearns, repeatedly stated that Epstein operated without proper qualifications. He managed money no one could fully trace. He cultivated influence with extraordinary precision. This is the foundation of the theory, supported by several intelligence experts, including former Israeli and American officials, that Epstein was involved in information gathering, compromise acquisition, or blackmail operations. 2. The recruiters and the mechanism of abuse. Court records from Florida, New York, and the Virgin Islands describe a consistent pattern. Young girls recruited from vulnerable backgrounds promised money, modeling careers, social mobility transported to Epstein properties across states escalated from massages to systematic abuse threatened into silence. This mechanism was industrial in scale. Victims testified that Epstein had sex with minors 3 times a day, required a constant flow of new victims used as assistants and associates as logistical staff. This was not a private perversion. It was a supply chain. 3. The elite guest list. This is where the case becomes politically toxic. Flight logs, visitor records, phone books, and sworn testimonies revealed a list of high-profile individuals connected to Epstein. Many of these individuals deny wrongdoing. And to be clear, association does not equal guilt, but it raises an unavoidable question. Why were so many powerful people orbiting a man later convicted as a sex trafficker? Names from both U.S. political parties appear across documents. Republicans, Democrats, former presidents, former cabinet officials, prominent senators, governors, billionaires, academics, media, executives, members of the intelligence community. Even before Epstein was first arrested in 2006, this network was already firmly in place. And that is why the system protected him. Part 2. The cover-up of 2008. The sweetheart deal that saved the powerful one. The Miami Herald expose. In 2018, journalist Julie Brown uncovered the full scope of the 2008 non-prosecution agreement, NPA, that saved Epstein from a life sentence. This deal was engineered by federal prosecutors under then U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. The terms were outrageous. Epstein received a secret federal immunity deal. His accomplices also received immunity. Epstein served 13 months in a county jail. He was allowed to leave jail 6 days a week under work release, Victims were not informed. Violating federal law, federal charges were dropped. Why would federal prosecutors treat a serial predator with such deference? When Acosta later joined the Trump administration as labor secretary, he told transition officials, according to a leaked briefing account, Epstein belonged to intelligence, leave it alone. Acosta later denied recalling this statement, but the damage was done. The American public understood that this was not a normal criminal case. 2. Bipartisan protection. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The Bush Department of Justice approved the 2008 deal. The Obama administration did not reopen the case for 8 years, despite victims requesting it. The Trump administration appointed Acosta to a top cabinet position. The Biden administration continues to keep major files sealed. Both parties had opportunities. Both parties buried them. Why? Because the Epstein File cuts across both political camps, and exposing it fully would burn Republicans and Democrats alike. Part 3. The 2019 arrest. A chance for justice. Shut down by a dead body. 1. The New York indictment. After more than a decade of inaction, federal prosecutors in New York charged Epstein with sex trafficking of minors, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. For the first time, the U.S. government signaled seriousness. The timing was notable. Journalists had finally forced the justice system to move. 2. The death in federal custody. On August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, one of the most secure prisons in America. The official ruling, suicide. But the circumstances. Cameras malfunctioned, guards fell asleep. Logs were falsified, the cellmate was removed. Epstein had previously been found with injuries. The autopsy revealed unusual fracture patterns. Multiple forensic experts, notably Dr. Michael Baden, former NYC medical examiner, questioned whether the injuries aligned with suicide. Then came the most alarming detail. The guards who falsified logs were charged, but the charges were quietly dropped. The message was clear. The system did not want a trial. It did not want discovery. It did not want cross-examinations. It did not want names. Epstein died, and with him died the opportunity to put his network under oath. Part 4. Ghislaine Maxwell. Convicted, but the network is still protected. 1. The trial that revealed only a fragment. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking of minors, conspiracy transporting a minor for illegal sexual activity. Her trial produced enormous evidence, but the government redacted names, sealed documents, and repeatedly narrowed the scope. Victims testified to seeing powerful men at Epstein properties, but nearly all such testimony was excluded from the official record. Maxwell went to prison. No client ever faced charges. 2. The client list, myth and reality. There is no official client list, but there are flight logs, visitor logs, phone, directories, sworn depositions, emails, call log schedules. All contain the names of influential individuals. Yet the Department of Justice refuses to unseal large sections. Why? Because exposing some names would raise the question. If this man was trafficking minors, who were the customers? Prosecutors have intentionally avoided this question. This is unprecedented in sex trafficking jurisprudence. Part 5. The victims. What they say, what they fought for, and why they were silenced. Victims have been the only consistent moral force in the case. Their testimonies are harrowing. Groomed as teenagers, moved across state lines, forced to recruit others, threatened, paid, and cash-raped, repeatedly photographed, used as entertainment for powerful men. Many victims describe being dismissed by federal agents, prosecutors, and even judges. Several report harassment, intimidation, and pressure to stay silent. Why? Because the victims threatened not one man. They threatened an entire structure of power, one that crossed political, economic, and international lines. Part 6. Why Washington, both parties, want this story dead. Here are the real reasons the Epstein File is still radioactive. 1. Bipartisan exposure. Republicans lose. Democrats lose. Big donors lose. Intelligence agencies lose. Corporate titans lose. Academia loses. Tech loses. The media loses. Epstein connected all of them. 2. Blackmail potential. Multiple intelligence experts, including former Mossad and CIA officials, publicly stated that Epstein appeared to be involved in compromise collection. If this is true, even partially, some powerful men may have been recorded, some may have been controlled, some may still fear exposure. This creates a shared political interest in burying the story. 3. Institutional reputation. The FBI failed. The DOJ failed. The prison system failed. The intelligence community may have been involved or aware. The courts mismanaged the victims. To expose everything would be to admit systemic corruption. 4. International implications. Epstein's network extended to Europe, the Middle East, Asia, the Caribbean, global finance, academic institutions, scientific research labs. Washington does not want geopolitical fallout. Part 7. The fight for justice. What must happen now? Victims are calling for 1. Unsealing all files. There are thousands of pages of documents still hidden. FBI interview notes, flight, data, visitor, logs, email, subpoenaed phone, records, testimonies, names, redacted from lawsuits, communications between prosecutors and defense teams. These must be released. 2. A full federal inquiry. A commission with subpoena power, similar to the 9/11 Commission, could examine prosecutorial misconduct, intelligence, connections, political interference, failure to protect minors, patterns of obstruction. 3. Charges against complicit individuals. Anyone who provided girls, transported victims, scheduled meetings, recruited minors, participated in abuse, facilitated logistics, should face federal charges. 4. Holding officials accountable. The prosecutors who violated the victims' rights must be investigated. The prison officials responsible for the security failure must be held accountable. The political appointees who obstructed cases must answer to Congress. Part 8. The core question. Why do victims still not have justice? Because the Epstein story is not about one predator. It is about the architecture of American power. 2 political parties united by fear of exposure, intelligence community that may have used Epstein, a justice system that bent the knee, a media ecosystem afraid to confront its own connections. Epstein is dead. Maxwell is in prison. But the network, the ecosystem of privilege, silence, and protection, remains intact. The wall of silence will not hold forever. Every political era has its reckoning. For the Catholic Church, it was the abuse scandal. For Hollywood, it was Weinstein. For Silicon Valley, it was surveillance capitalism. For American policing, it was George Floyd. For global geopolitics, it was the Panama Papers. And for Washington, Republican and Democrat alike, the reckoning will be the Epstein Files. The victims deserve the truth. The public deserves transparency. And the world deserves to know why a predator with global reach, political access, intelligence ties, and a trafficking network spanning 3 decades was allowed to operate in full view of America's most powerful institutions. This story is not over. The silence is cracking. And one day, whether Washington wants it or not, the full Epstein file will become public.